This is WinField United's R7 field forecasting tool. And what this is a crop model to help us look at in-season nitrogen, potassium, and water use, right? And so what we can do with this model is really help make a better in-season management decision to increase, make the most out of our ROI and increase our bushel output. If we look at this tool and kind of break it down really quick, if we look across the top, we can see our growth stage, our predicted maturities, our growing degree days, and some of the other statistics that shows throughout the field. And if we notice up on the top right-hand corner, we look a little bit at the yield. And one reason why we stick with the yield potential outlook is that we don't want to limit ourselves by setting a yield goal, because we really want to be able to achieve as much as we possibly can. When we look at this chart here on the bottom, we see the water, nitrogen, and potassium stress. If we notice on the nitrogen and potassium, it shows us when and where we might have occurred nitrogen stress or potassium stress. The thicker the red line is when we would have occurred it, or the most stress from that limiting fertilizer or that limiting element. And if we look at the water, the thicker the blue line also would mean water stress has occurred. If we look on the bottom and we have date or time along the bottom, our stages according to that time along the top, and on the side this would be essentially our daily biomass accumulation. And as you see, that goes up and down throughout the days or throughout the months of the growing period, and that's all relative to how the weather is performing and how much that plant is really growing every single day. So what we do with this model, and one way we can really solidify it and calibrate the model, is by in-season tissue sampling. With our in-season tissue sampling, we can really get a snapshot of what's really happening inside of that plant, and we can take that tissue sample and we can put it back into the model and help really calibrate and fine-tune the model so we can get a better accurate prediction or better accurate solution to maybe what's happening within that field. And then with this, and as we go through the season, we want to try to really make the best in-season management decision that we can. So, for example, we can run what's called a scenario builder. And what we do with this is we put our input costs in, and we look at the time, the dates on the top, and on the side would be a selected amount of nitrogen pounds of application. And we can kind of select these dates that we want, or I can select the windows that we want. And according to the model, this will help us suggest when the most economical with the most bushel payback application might be. We can look at this two ways. Had we come in with an initial plan of wanting to put on 100 pounds of nitrogen, well, we might find out that we may not need 100 pounds of nitrogen because of a limiting factor that might have happened within that season. So we can put on less and potentially save some money in input costs that way. Or we can look at it the other way around. We might have only planned for 70 when really we could be putting on more, and because we have a larger yield growth or more yield potential in that field than we might have imagined. So this really helps us solidify and make the best decision that we can with the most economical return. And that for the most part is the field forecasting tool, and we really want to try to use this to help us make the best in-season management decision that we possibly can.